Hi, guys. Welcome back. Trevor Swenson again with Through the Darkness. My journey with PTSD, trauma, and stressor disorder in hopes of helping other people, encouraging other people, giving other people hope that this is just moving through the darkness, not standing in it, not existing in it, not living in it from here on out. You have a life to live. Wanted to talk today about a topic that is a difficult one for me to talk about. And I'm sure it probably is one that is difficult for you as well. And that is the topic of forgiveness. And when we think of forgiveness, we think of a lot of things that actually aren't true. Forgiveness doesn't make whatever it is that happened to you okay. All of a sudden, forgiveness doesn't restore relationships to what they once were. Forgiveness doesn't make you coffee buddies again. Forgiveness is not about forgetting. In fact, that is one of the things that, if you struggle with PTSD, the forgetting aspect is very, very difficult. But unforgiveness, resentment, anger, and bitterness are a very real aspect of trauma and stressor-related disorder. And today, my visual is a backpack that you and I are carrying when it comes to not addressing forgiveness. And within this backpack, as you can tell by the weight and the sound, are jagged, heavy, burdensome rocks. And unforgiveness, you are in control of. Not the situation that puts you in a position to forgive or unforgive. It is you that are in control of forgiving or not forgiving. And I just want to challenge you today to at least give some thought to going down the road of forgiveness. Because unforgiveness, unfortunately, will stay with you, and you will carry it for as long as you are not forgiving or willing to forgive. And to make the point a little bit more personal, think of the situation or the people involved in your particular situation. And do they make you feel good on the inside? Does it make you feel well? Does it make you feel alive? Does it make you feel full of life? No, it doesn't. Unforgiveness is a toxic, ugly thing that we choose to either carry around with us for the rest of our life, which wrecks us on the inside and is a burden that we don't need to carry, or we choose to do something about this. And today, I'm going to talk about what we can do. You are the one, I am the one that is held captive by unforgiveness. It's not the other people involved. It's not the situation that was involved. We are the ones that are held captive by unforgiveness. As I just tried to give you a simple example, that if you think back to the situation, if you were sexually abused or physically abused or verbally abused or part of a horrible relationship, you know that the burden is on the inside of you. There's no doubt that it happened. One of the things we have to address is that it did happen. Forgiveness is not taking away the fact that it happened, because it did happen. And now we need to talk about what are we going to do. One of the cool things about forgiveness is that you are completely in control of forgiveness or unforgiveness. At the same time, you are also in control of either carrying around this enormous emotional, painful weight, or choosing to take it off, put it on the ground, hand it to whatever it is that you are unforgiving of. And I'm going to challenge you to do the first part of that, which is to slip that backpack off and to release yourself to be able to be somebody who is forgiving of whatever it was that you endured or went through. I want to talk about restraint and meekness. A lot of times I found myself in a struggle of lashing out, a struggle of being incredibly angry, being incredibly reactive during my process of walking through trauma and stressor disorder. And as I learned more about myself, and as I learned more about the power of restraint and the power of weakness, restraint is actually a very admirable and powerful attribute that can be found in great leaders, great people, great friends, great parents, great siblings, just great people in general. Because it's very easy to be mad. It's very easy to lash out. It's very easy to be angry. It's a default mechanism. But below that anger, almost without exception, is sadness, grief, a sense of loss, whatever it may be, whether it be a loss of control, a loss of finances, the loss of a relationship, the loss of trust, the loss of your ability to do something anymore, whatever it might be. I'm going to talk about very clearly in an upcoming episode what I've lost from the journey of PTSD, but also what I have gained on the flip side of it. But it's loss. It's loss of expectation. And mad is easy because sad is no fun and sad is difficult. And restraint and meekness, I want you to know, is power under control, is very admirable. And don't feel bad and don't beat yourself up if you are the personality type that has restrained yourself, that has shown strength under control, because those two things are so much more admirable than reckless anger unleashed. And in the process of forgiveness, to stay in control and to stay on top of the position of power, you need to be ready, and you need to be self-controlled, and you need to start the process of forgiveness. Forgiveness is a process. I will tell you that. It is not a one and done type of thing. It is a process. And it is a lot of times, I've found for myself, a long process. Some of the forgiveness processes are longer than the others. If one of my kids spills milk on the carpet and they say, "I'm sorry," and I say, "I forgive you," that is an easy process. If you have been abused, if you have been sexually abused, narcissistically abused, physically abused, betrayed, whatever it might be, that is a little bit more hefty forgiveness process to walk through, and that's okay. So want you to think about a few things. Forgiveness doesn't have to be in person. Forgiveness does not have to be a formal meeting, phone call, text, whatever it might be. It can literally be you in your heart saying something as simple as this. And this is what finally made it come clear to me. When it comes right down to it, over the course of my life, I'm a liar, I'm a thief, I'm an alcoholic, I have hurt people in my anger, I have said damaging things to people, I have made people's days or life more difficult, and yet I am completely forgiven of all of those things. Completely forgiven. I'm forgiven by Christ who died on the cross because myself, just like you listening, when you lay all of those things out there, he forgives you with no questions, with no strings attached, other than accepting the forgiveness. And when I started to look at life that way, on what a wreck I was when it came right down to it, when I looked at my life and I was completely forgiven, who am I then to hold unforgiveness over somebody that has deeply hurt me, or over the situation that trauma and stressor disorder came to be, or over the circumstances surrounding PTSD, or over the things that were said, or the things that were done, or the things that were not done. Just put yourself in that situation. I'm just throwing all of them out there for you to put yourself exactly in that particular situation. What happens when you open your heart to forgive somebody is that the backpack is taken off you and it is placed on them. It's as simple as that. They, whoever they or whoever what it is, now has the full weight of the situation or situations or interaction or interactions or relationship or relationships. They now have the full weight of the situation on their back. That is what forgiveness looks like, and that is why it is so powerful. You can either choose to carry around those heavy, jagged, burdenful injuries in unforgiveness the rest of your life, or you can choose to start walking down the road of unforgiveness and literally, quietly hand it off. And I challenge you to do that, because unforgiveness is a toxin. It will eat away at you. It will make you sick. It will make you mentally not well. It will keep you up at night. It will make you want to treat people differently than they deserve at no fault of their own. It is an ugly, ugly thing. Through all of this, remember that you are completely forgiven, which was the crossroads for me. That a broken person such as myself, with all of my faults, was completely forgiven, bought and paid for. And who am I to hold unforgiveness? Now, one thing that forgiveness is not, a few things that forgiveness is not. Forgiveness, as I touched on, is not forgetting. The situation surrounding the trauma and PTSD and your unresolved trauma changes things. It will change dynamics. But the toxicity of it, the weight of the unforgiveness, is what has been taken away. But it's not about forgetting. There will now most likely be boundaries. It's okay. Forgiveness, a lot of times, still has boundaries. It still may have the I don't want to be around you. I don't want to look at you. I don't want to see you the rest of my life. But I forgive you for the physical abuse. I forgive you for the terrible relationship that we were in. I forgive you for putting me in that particular situation. I forgive you, but there are boundaries. The relationship is going to look differently, and a lot of times those boundaries are going to be tall and they're going to be thick, and they are going to never be crossed again, and that's okay. But the weight and the toxicity of forgiveness has been handed over when you say in your heart, help me to forgive. I forgive. And it will be a process. I promise you, it is not something that will magically happen overnight, especially in unresolved trauma. But it is so worth working to get that toxicity and that weight off of your back. The other thing that you don't have to feel differently about the situation or the people involved or the person involved or the relationships involved or what happened. It doesn't make things okay because you forgive somebody. Again, what the forgiveness does is it takes the toxicity and the burden and the weight of the resentment, the anger, and the bitterness, and it puts that burden on the back of the situation or the people that were involved. And that is something that they can either choose to accept the forgiveness, at which point they're able to take off the backpack and leave it to rot between the two of you, or they don't have to accept that. They don't even have to know that you've forgiven them, because this is about you. This is about you finding the ability to forgive. But the weight is on them because the situation happened. The people involved know what happened in your particular situation, and your forgiveness is completely separate from that. Your forgiveness is healing to you. Your forgiveness removes the weight and the jagged edges and the heaviness of having to carry that anymore throughout your life. So I just challenge you today to think about the heavy backpack of unforgiveness, bitterness, resentment, and anger, and go down the road of forgiveness. And if it means that you have to say, Jesus, I know that you forgave me and I don't deserve it for any reason, and you forgave me of all of the awful things that I have done in my life. Help me to do that in this particular situation so that I can be free of the toxic burden of unforgiveness. I hope you do that, and I can't wait to see you next time. Please click and subscribe. Forward this on to somebody that may be struggling with unforgiveness and bitterness and anger, and do it in love, do it in compassion, and do it in empathy, because with trauma and stressor disorder, PTSD, and unresolved trauma, there is a lot of difficult, heavy work to be done. So do it in love, do it in compassion, do it in hope and empathy and encouragement. Thanks for being with me. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell. I can't wait to be with you again. Be well. See ya.